Hello, it's Rich Rosen, Fastcall founder and CEO, and I'm going to talk for a few minutes about our inbound call routing, specifically the soft phone. And this will be a little bit more of an advanced overview of how we manage inbound calls, manage search, and the soft phone in Salesforce. So I'm logged into Salesforce now. I happen to be in Classic. I could just as well be in Console or Lightning. So the first thing I'll say is that I'm here in the widget, and you'll see that my call status is available. This status is going to control how we manage our inbound calls. When I'm available, I can receive a call in fast call. If I'm not available, the call is going to either go to voicemail or a simul ring phone, an overflow phone, or if we have the fast call ACD set up, which stands for automatic call distribution. Um, as the title describes, the call will be distributed automatically to another user, and all that's managed by starts with my user status. So when a call comes in to the soft phone, the call is going to ring here in the browser, and the call can be answered in the browser with a simul ring phone or an overflow phone. Those calls are going to be managed outside of Salesforce. So I'll see here if I go into the settings, and I could also navigate through here, but I'll just navigate in the settings. The user is going to set up their phones used for inbound routing. So here under my user settings, I have my devices. Um, the first two are always going to be phones taken from the Salesforce user records. This is an office phone and a mobile phone taken directly from my Salesforce user record. And these um, these phones may or may not exist in Salesforce, so it depends upon whether or not you have those phones on your Salesforce user record. But these are other devices that I've added. Here we have the soft phone because it's enabled. This is a office phone, another office phone, could be another mobile phone. So these are other hard devices that are not soft phones. And I can use any of these devices um, in my inbound call routing, which is managed here. So you can see in this setup, I'm just ringing the soft phone for 10 seconds. I could add another phone for overflow. So I could say ring the soft phone for 10 seconds, but if it doesn't answer, then ring both the soft phone and office phone together. It's not a bad setup, actually. Well, I reverse that. But I can then ring the soft phone and office phone together. So the inbound call is going to come in. It's going to follow these instructions. Um, the soft phone is going to ring in the browser. The hard phone, the office phone, is not going to ring in the browser, but will give you some notification in the browser to let you know the call is coming in, but it's answered outside the browser. Down here, for my automatic call distribution settings, each user can only have one phone. For a user phone, there are multiple phones, which is what's set up here. User phones that ring a user directly can have multiple phones and have their own inbound call routing settings. Phones used for the automatic call distribution will have one phone. So the call comes in here, it's going to ring this user on the soft phone and then go off and do the next user or the next set of instructions. So for inbound, the user has their inbound routes, their inbound settings. There's a notification that's happening in the widget. So now let's talk about caller ID. So we've set up our inbounds. We've got our inbound route set up. So when calls come in, we're either going to match the phone by caller ID or we're not. So you can see here there are calls that have come in. The red arrow means that the call was missed. So here's a call that came in that is a call that was missed. This is the phone number that was dialed. This was the caller ID, the date, time, and duration of the call. This actually is widget's been recently updated. I can call this contact back here. I can send an SMS here if that's so enabled. I can go directly and look at the task, which actually I do want to do, or I can delete the record if I just want to get rid of it. But I do want to look at the task for a second, though same information is in the widget. But on the Salesforce task, you will see that we have a call from number. So the call from number is the number that came in as caller ID. That was the from number. Now this call from number may or may not be the user's phone number. We may have the phone number in Salesforce for an office phone. This could be a mobile phone. This could be another extension used by that caller's phone system. So the phone number that we actually are receiving from Twilio, and there will be times that the from number um, isn't passed at all. So the caller ID just is not passed. But when there is a caller ID passed, we're going to search in Salesforce and we may or may not find a match. And for many reasons, again, because the number might not be in Salesforce, it might not be the user's primary phone, it might be an extension, they might be in a different office, they might be sitting in a conference room, but we're going to search in Salesforce. And when we do find a match, like we did here for this test call, just test, we show it in Salesforce. And I can click here and it's going to take us directly to the record in Salesforce. So when we do find a match, we're going to show it. And when we don't find a match, I moved around a little bit here, but we do find a match, we're going to show it. Now I can come in here and say, the call came in, and this happens. We had the phone number assigned to this record called test. Um, but we know that's somebody else at the company that we don't want to talk to. We don't want to talk to Test. We need to talk to Bill Test too because he's the decision maker. So you can change that lookup there. So the call comes in. If we find a match, we're going to match it. If you don't want to change the match, you can change it. Let's see here. If you want to just create a new lead altogether, you can do that. It's great. So that's all managed in here. If the call comes in and there is no lookup, sort of the same thing here, I can come in here, I can look for, I don't know, say, you know what, I think that may have been Steve, and I can match that directly to Steve. Pick which Steve I want to pick. Boy, a lot of Steves here. Boy, did I pick a common name. Anyway, or I can just create a new lead. So similar as before. So that's my caller ID match. This is in the widget here. We're only going to keep recent calls in the widget, but once it's matched, we will create the lookup between the Salesforce task and the record. So I can show you that. These calls all have voicemail. By the way, that's a voicemail icon here. It's a little small. I think we are making that bigger. But I can show you. So just if we want to see. So here's test. I went before. If I want to go to the task, I think I did pop that already. It will have a lookup to, this is the call. There will be a lookup to the lead on the record when we do find that match. So here it is here. So when we do find the match, we're also going to put the lookup on the record itself. And when there's not a match, there wouldn't be a lookup here unless you create it in the widget. Okay, so that's sort of inbound calls, caller ID, sort of matching. The last thing I want to go over is a setting in Salesforce, which kind of sort of how does all this work? Let me close a couple of these tabs. So the last thing I want to talk about is we looked at this already. So the setting in Salesforce, we actually looked at this already. So the softphone layout. So the softphone layout is in Salesforce. And it is what's being used by Open CTI, which is kind of what's making all this work in Salesforce. So the softphone layout in Salesforce. So I just came into the Salesforce setup menu. I typed in softphone. I came to the softphone layout, and I'm editing. You may or may not have more than one of these softphone layouts. So Salesforce basically manages part of this via what they call Open CTI, and they have some screen pop settings. Now we are managing all of this in the widget. So the screen pop settings could be used in Open CTI. All this is happening in our widget, so we don't actually have to do anything here. Um, except in an advanced option, which I'll talk about in a minute, and I'll finish. But you can limit the number, which records we're actually searching here, and Fastcall will honor this. So when a call comes in, we will search contact, account, lead, case. I'm actually not searching opportunity, but if I don't want to see that, so if I don't want to see contacts or accounts, if I only want to see leads, in a lookup table, I can only see leads in the lookup table. Now, one reason this is important is that when a call comes in and there are duplicates, we're not going to find you a match. So if the call comes in that, and there are 3 records or 4 records or 5 records with a phone number that match, our application is not going to try to guess or predict right now which record should be the preferred match. That might be an area it's an area that we're going to improve, but right now, if there is one matching record in Salesforce, we're going to show it. If there are multiple matching records, the user is going to have to manage that lookup on their own, as I showed you a few minutes ago. So these are some settings in Salesforce that we will honor. The settings down here in Screen Pop, we are managing entirely in our widgets. We don't use those unless, and I will go back to show that one more time, inside of our application, we already talked about our inbound routing and our devices, but there are some settings here for inbound calls, inbound settings, common sense. Do you want to enable voicemail? Um, Inbound search, use Softphone layout. So this is an advanced setting that is most likely going to be off. But if you do have your own custom Visualforce page, and this is not likely, but if you do have your own custom Visualforce page, you can enable this, and then that previous page that I just showed you, you could set the Visualforce page there. So basically that says when inbound call comes in, you're going to handle that on your own Visualforce page. Again, it's not a common lookup, but we support it. So this one says use the Salesforce layout. And by default, our application does not use the Salesforce layout. We do it ourselves. So that's that setting. Look up the record at the beginning of the call. You generally want to leave that on. If you want to create a new lead from the inbound call, you do have the option of setting a default lead status and lead source, right? So could be phone, and we have contacted, could be call answered. So if you want to set a default status and source for that lead that you create for the inbound call. Last thing, and I'll stop, missed call settings are here. So a call comes in and it's missed. You can automatically log out a user who misses calls. It's very helpful for the ACD. If a user is missing multiple calls, they're going to sort of slow down that ACD. If they're automatically logged out, we'll skip them. So that's better. And if you want to send an email for a missed call, you can, and you can send add as many email addresses as you want. Okay, so that was a bit of a detailed overview about inbound, Softphone, page layout, searches, caller IDs, our settings. If you have any additional questions, shoot us an email, support@fastcall.com, and we will quickly reply to help get you set up. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a chance to try some of these settings.